Advisory Group for outstanding work. Now we're going to move to some reports by members of the National Space Council. I'm going to recognize our Secretary of Commerce, Wilbur Ross, who has been involved in working on space traffic management, regulatory reform, and is almost as excited about American innovation in space as the President and me. So join me in thanking the Secretary of Commerce for his great leadership.
Thank you, Vice President Pence, for the opportunity to update the National Space Council on space activities at the Department of Commerce. Last year, there were 114 government and private space launches worldwide, the first time in 3 decades that number exceeded 100. U.S. had 31 launches, including a record number of commercial launches, but China had 39. More than 80 countries have now entered the space industry, often playing under different rules from what we have. These countries realize that space is a strategic industry that creates a highly technical workforce with spin-off technologies and economic growth. This was evident at the Paris Air Show, which highlighted U.S. leadership but also made clear the substantial efforts of foreign government-backed entities to surpass us. 75% of space industry revenues are now commercial. We intend to keep the United States as the flag of choice as the global space industry moves from $415 billion of revenues to $1 trillion within the next 20 years. Commerce Department is actively pursuing the space traffic management goals outlined in Space Policy Directive 3. Our strong partnership with the Department of Defense will modernize space situational awareness capabilities. Mark Daly, a senior executive with experience in both defense and space commerce, leads the Commerce Department's SSA landing team at the 18th Space Control Squadron at Vandenberg Air Force Base. Our joint SSA efforts will help avoid the destructive impact of space debris, even as space activities grow more complex and global in nature. In response to our April 2019 RFI, more than 50 academic and industry partners submitted creative ideas to limit the creation of new space debris through satellite design, improved SSA, and early mission deorbit. The Commerce Department's role is critically important given the plans of commercial industry to launch thousands of mass-produced satellites in constellations. Commerce is developing an open architecture data repository for space debris information. This will allow us to provide conjunction notifications to the U.S. and global commercial space industries in the near future. The new repository will incorporate private sector innovations to track and avoid space debris, and that in turn will facilitate new commercial space services. Under Space Policy Directive 2, to eliminate or streamline regulations, we are revising remote sensing and export control rules. We have received extensive feedback from U.S. companies in the fast-developing and extremely competitive global market for remote sensing. Our immediate goal is a new draft rule that encourages domestic innovation while ensuring global competitiveness and market leadership of American companies. Commerce is working with the State Department and other agencies to review public comments on our March proposed rule so that we can issue a final rule this fall. At an industry day I hosted in April, we discussed the need to maintain export controls with some countries while streamlining them for others. Within the Commerce Department, we have reestablished the Office of Space Commerce that had been dormant for decades. It is the only U.S. government entity charged with pursuing the unique interests of the commercial space industry. The commercial industry has said repeatedly that it needs an advocate, a one-stop shop in its dealings with both U.S. government and foreign governments. So we continue to work within the administration and with Congress to establish a Bureau of Space Commerce that will give commerce the resources needed to execute the Space Council's directives. Thank you, Mr. Vice President. I look forward to our discussion.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Secretary. You can give the Secretary of Commerce a round of applause. That is an extraordinary amount of work. Wilbur, thank you. Thank you so much for your tremendous efforts, and I want to offer my congratulations. You mentioned the work in April, but the Space Enterprise Summit that the Department of Commerce co-hosted in June, I think you've also spoken about, and I hope that our private industry partners see the tremendous commitment by the President in our Department of Commerce to enlivening private investment and development. I'll ask members of the panel to throw a question at the Secretary, but a quick question. The new commercial remote sensing regulations are being developed at Commerce. Can you speak about when those will be completed or amplify the points you made?
Yes, we think by the end of October we should have that work completed.
Okay, outstanding. Any other questions from members of the panel for the Secretary of Commerce? Okay, we're very grateful, Wilbur. Thank you so very much, and all of your remarks will be included in the record as prepared. Next, I'd like to recognize